Very nice. I appreciate your organizing this whole thing and also being my uh, webinar manager over there. I appreciate it. And welcome everybody. This is a presentation that I put together with a lot of information. It's a lot to cover, and so some of it I'll just move through pretty quickly, but I will try to stop in a couple places and see if people have questions. And it could be that in the interest of time, I may, either, have a conversation with you later or send you some information, that kind of thing. So let's see how it goes. So today we have two speakers. There's myself, and I went ahead and put our information right up front so you can easily contact either one of us. And then Sherry is with a company called Going, Going, Gone, and she is a personal move organizer. So she helps people with a whole bunch of the steps that are required to get ready to move. And I was a little surprised when I met her and found out about the services that these folks provide, not, her company as well as other senior move managers, personal move managers. I've seen them called different things. But anyway, she'll tell us a little about what she does, which is great. And this is our agenda for the day, the different topics that I'm going to cover. People always want to know, how is the real estate market? So I figured I'd spend a couple minutes on that. I won't spend a ton of time. I know we have someone from afar who probably isn't paying attention to the coastside market on the call. And so I won't stick too long on that, but it's interesting, with COVID going on and everybody wants to know what's happening. And then we'll jump into the fears that I hear when people are thinking, if they even start thinking about selling their home, and what comes up, what questions come up, sort of the complications that hit people and makes them maybe wait and not want to sell, which is okay too. But there's a lot that goes into it. And then resources available to maybe help put some of those fears to rest. So that's kind of the main meat. And then we have steps to selling a house and just some final words and Q&A. So this I'm looking at San Mateo County as well as coastside numbers. This is general San Mateo County, but you can see in the second quarter, most of the second quarter was COVID time, right? Actually, wait, all of second quarter, April, May, June, was all COVID, right? And we had our sale price, the median price in the county went up 6%, almost 6% during that time period. So we have not seen, I think people initially thought for sure the market would fall and nothing was going to sell, but it's not happening. We're seeing a lot of buyers, a lot of houses selling quickly. Homes are still selling less than 30 days on the market, which is kind of amazing. And then we actually had more listings in the second quarter than we did in the first quarter, which isn't terribly surprising because January, February tends to be a little slower. But we had, a good second quarter. And then there's condo numbers as well, but I'll just stick with the home numbers at the moment. This is showing, this is also San Mateo County. So you can kind of see for a number of new listings in January, the red line, this is normal that we start to see more listings, January, February, March. It was starting to go nuts in March. And then COVID happened, and you see what happened. We dropped off the cliff, and listings went way down. We had a lot of cancellations, that kind of thing, while people were trying to figure out, where are we? What are we doing right now? And how do we move forward? And then once, I guess, confidence started to come back in kind of early April, and it's been climbing ever since pretty much, and to the point where we're above the number of listings as this time last year by quite a bit. And that's, of course, just a snapshot number that they're taking, but you can see that listings are strong this year. And the last couple of years have been really tight in general in terms of number of homes, number of listings, number of homes selling. So the fact that we're a little higher than last year is nice, but it's still really, really a low number if you look historically. And then contracts, similar line. This is homes that actually came on the market and then did go into contract. Same thing. That was going up, 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 and then dropped off the cliff, and then straight back up again. And now again, we're way past where we were last year. So homes are definitely still selling. The market is still really strong in San Mateo County, and similar in Half Moon Bay. This is just a number that I like to look at, like how many months of inventory do we have available? And that helps you understand what kind of market we're in, seller's market, buyer's market. If this number is under 6, about 6 is where we say, okay, we're in a buyer's market. And so we have been in the 1-2 range for years now, probably since 2012. I'm guessing it's been a seller's market for a really long time. And even on the coast, it's kind of shocking. 1 month of inventory. So basically, we're selling in a given month the same number of homes that came on the market. So it's a hot market. A lot of people want to live here, and we're seeing that. Crystalline was, before we started, Crystalline was talking about the fact that people now can live almost anywhere. A lot of people, they're going to be able to telecommute from now on. And so they can live wherever they want. And so they're looking at less populated, more rural and more beautiful areas to live, and moving out of the cities. We're seeing that all over the Bay Area. So I think that's a big part of what we're seeing here in Half Moon Bay as well. And I don't know, some in, I think, Mary, you're in Montana, excuse me, you might be seeing that there too, that more people are moving to Idaho, Montana, my folks moving to Chicago because they can go live where they want to live and still have the same job, which is nice. Okay, so before we hop, we're going to go into fears about selling. Does anybody have a quick question about the market?
I have a question.
Okay.
So if somebody was thinking about selling their house and thinking that working from home is now an option, and people might be more apt to look at the coast side, is now a good time to pull the trigger on making the decision to sell their house?
Well, it is a good time because we have sort of the imbalance of houses for sale and demand. So houses are they're selling very quickly on the coast. We're even seeing some multiple offer situations more than we were before. We still tend to sell the houses at about 100% of the asking price on average. So we don't get so many crazy multiple offers like we were seeing over the last couple of years on the other side of the hill, where people would get 10-20% more than their asking price. It's more kind of, you might get 1, 2, 3 offers depending on the house. But most houses are selling pretty quickly. So if you want to sell and you make that decision, then it's probably going to sell. So yeah, you got to make sure you have a good pricing and you're presenting it well. So, okay. So fears about selling, and I put this sort of chaotic background just because people, when they start to think about selling, there's so many aspects of it that it feels very complicated. It can feel very chaotic, and it can be very daunting to start the process, especially if someone's been in their house for decades, and you're thinking about, how am I going to move everything, right? So some of the things that people are afraid of, how to get it prepared, what kind of upgrades need to be done, and how much is it going to cost, and is all that going to be out of pocket, and what if I can't afford it, that kind of thing. People are very worried about having no place to go and having to move twice. So if you sell your house and you don't have the, the one where you're moving to yet, what are you going to do? And how do you time that? Is there a way to time that so that you don't have to move twice? Organizing and packing, like I mentioned, well, that's part of preparing, and part of preparing is, repairs, upgrades, that kind of thing, and presenting the house really well. And then also organizing and packing and getting sort of, you always hear, you have to declutter, or that it's the best idea to declutter your house as part of preparing it and getting everything ready to go. And what about all the giveaway stuff? And, you have to have enough energy for garage sales and all that kind of stuff. Managing all the different moving parts. Valuing the home. What's the price? How much should we sell it for? How much is it really worth? What is the market telling us? And sometimes people go about that in, how do I want to say it? Not a market driven way. You can't really go about pricing your home by saying, I need this much proceeds out of it, because the market, the buyers who are going to buy your home, it doesn't matter to them what proceeds you need, right? They're looking at the market. They're looking at what else is selling, how much the house is worth on the open market. So anyway, there's a lot of art to pricing a home correctly, especially in the kind of market where we, basically are selling homes at pretty much 100% of the asking price. So you sure need to get that asking price as close to right as you can. And then taxes, that's a big one, because when people sell their house, they could get hit with a big capital gains dollar amount if they've lived in their house for a long time and they have a lot of equity they've built. Also, they might have a low property tax basis, and when you move to a new house, you get the value of the house is assessed at today's market or your purchase price, and so you got to have a huge tax hit. And so there are a lot of fears about selling. I probably missed some as well. And then so flipping it, there are a lot of different resources available from different channels that can help to deal with some of those fears and make it, and just help you, make it all make sense and make the process happen correctly and get you what you need. So as a seller, so my company has something called Concierge. I'll talk about that briefly. And then we have move organizers. Sherry's going to talk about. There are contract options and that is in terms of timing the move. There are some things that we can do in the sales contract that can help with that. There are bridge loans available. Chat about that. Some tax options. Your realtor has a lot of resources available. And then both your referral network, a lot of people that that you could get referrals for, vendors or people that you need on your team to make this thing happen, and your realtor. I have a large vendor network that I can recommend as well. So that's helpful, because you want a strong team. If you decide to take on this big project, you want a strong team to work with. Okay, so Compass Concierge. This program, what Compass will do is they'll actually pay up to $30,000 for home improvements or for things that you need to do to get the house ready for sale. So this would be for people who maybe are, tight on funds, don't have a lot of cash, but they have a lot of equity maybe, and they could use some advance money. And this could be for, like in this case, you see the picture, someone actually updated the bathroom. Could be paint, could be landscaping, staging, small things, large things, inspections, almost anything you need to do to prepare a house for sale. They will advance up to $30,000 and you repay it at the close of escrow. So it doesn't come out of the seller's pocket, it comes out at the end. And there are no extra interest, no fees on that. So it's kind of an amazing program that Compass has available to help people who have that challenge, let's say. But I recently worked with a seller who, she wasn't really, uh, strapped for cash. She had plenty of cash to do what she needed to do, but because she traveled so much and it was hard to coordinate everything, we used the Compass Concierge program to do the improvements, and then she just paid it at the end, and it just made the process much easier for her. So there are different reasons why that might be helpful for people. So I think other companies have similar programs available. I just don't know the terms. I originally I do know that some of them had fees or interest or limits or I don't know what. But anyway, so a lot of companies I do think have something similar available. So it's a good thing to ask. And then I have another picture of a kitchen where somebody did the same thing. And what we find actually I have some charts here. What we find is that putting money into a lot of the surface improvements, the kitchen, bathroom, flooring, the roof, landscaping, those in this area you do get back more than you put into it for a lot of those projects. And this chart shows nationally, the data shows that if you replace your garage door, you will get 98% of what you spent. So you get an increased price of 98% of what you spent. I don't think that's not really the same here. I think the money that you spend on making your curb appeal better, and doing, like I said, paint, kitchen, that kind of thing, you get more than what you put into it. So in general, if you do it really expensive, maybe not, so you want to talk to the contractor, the realtor, and make sure that the way you're doing it is cost effective and is going to get you, the extra money on the market. So like I said, this is national data, but you can get an idea of some of the upgrades that people do, or you might want to consider. Backyard patio. People really like being able to walk easily from inside to outside and have that access to the outside space. So that's a good thing to highlight if you have that available at your house. And then here's some interior projects. Minor kitchen remodel, probably not. If your kitchen needs a whole overhaul, I don't know. I guess it depends on the condition of it, but kitchens can be awfully expensive. In the last few years, the construction costs have gone way up. Material costs have gone way up, especially with the trade wars and all of that. So it's important to, think through what you're doing and try to evaluate how much extra value it's going to add to your house. And this is whether you're thinking about selling or not, it doesn't matter. Any home improvement that you're thinking about doing, if eventually down the line you may decide to sell your house, you want to think about, is this adding value? Am I doing it in a way that is cost effective? Okay, so personal move organizers. Sherry.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Hi, everyone. So Kristen asked me to talk about the business of what move organizers do. And a lot of us have businesses, like she said, to help with the step prior to. So when you say you want to put your house on the market, if you need help doing anything, realtors are referring people to senior living communities, are referring seniors to move managers. You need a final clear out upon somebody's passing. So we do all kinds of different things. You can go to the next slide, Kirsten.
Okay.
There's a whole list of services that a move organizer can do for you. Most of the organizers out there, you can pick and choose from your services that you need. Um, we're decluttering usually prior to moving. So that means bringing in a team of, people that can help you make decisions, or you make decisions and tag things, and we come and we pack them and label and sort them for donation, for resale, for trash and hauling, to keep in the house for staging, whatever. So we have a pretty bright team of people. We have guys and gals who, and this is on most move management teams in the Bay Area. So depending on your needs, usually they're coming in with 2 people to help, or up to a team of 10 or 12, just depending, and your time frame. So a move manager kind of manages the whole process for you if you want them to get everything done prior to the first contractor coming in, or prior to the house being staged. So that's, most move management services are they're not movers, they're organizers. And by the way, they have access to all of the hauling and staging, hauling and movers and everything. Some teams like ours have everything all encompassing. So that's it for that.
Yeah. It's amazing. I worked with Sherry and her company, helping some clients move out. I don't remember how long they had been in their home, but it was a while, and they had a lot of stuff, and they had to, they had some health issues, and they really needed help. And Sherry and her team were truly amazing. All the stuff that they hauled out of there and dealt with and organized, and yeah.
Yeah, they're really well trained. The teams are really well trained, and I'm in a organization, so we meet, here and locally. Our chapter does, and we are all over the Bay Area, all over the country. But typically, a person that wants to sell their home is either a super busy professional with kids, or just super busy, and they don't have time to get things together for, oh, we want to put our house on the market in 2 weeks or whatever. So they call us in to put a plan together for them. Or they are a senior, or somebody like Kirsten just said, that's been in the house for many, many years and are paralyzed and don't know paralyzed in their thoughts of where to begin. So that's kind of how, a lot of us get into this business. So we are organizers professionally. And, oh, by the way, we can help you with all of the different pieces that seem to be overwhelming to people. Whether you can do a lot of it yourself, and we do part of it, or whatever. So we can also do some light staging. Many move managers can do that with your existing furniture. So we declutter and clear things out. We can put things in pods, or in a storage unit, or in the garage, or whatever, and then get rid of other things that are unwanted. And then many move managers can, stage the home with what you have, and maybe bring in a few pieces to enhance.
Nice.
So that's also an option. But yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Thank you very much. And does anybody have a question for Sherry?
Okay, thank you.
Christine, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious as to some of the costs involved in some of these services.
Yeah, so we're all different. For different move managers, charge different prices. I have a team of organizers and a team of hauling and moving guys, labor. And we do a lot of different phased moves. I wanted to say that first before I tell you about the pricing, but we charge hourly. And so if we're selling anything for you, we don't take a commission for bringing in our wholesalers, or getting it consigned, or selling it online. We just do hourly. Some organizers and move managers charge by the project. My fee is $55 an hour per person, with a 2-hour minimum per day. A 2-person minimum per day. Other companies go up to about, I'd say it's between, I don't know, 50-ish, 55-ish, up to about 75 maybe, or a little bit more per hour. Per person.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but could those fees be paid at the end of escrow? So upon the home selling, instead of them, like Kirsten was talking about, the concierge service, and then it's not out of their pocket, but then it gets paid at the end. Is that
Yeah,
something?
so we will, every company's different for move managers, but we personally are signed up with Compass Concierge. So if you choose to use us and want to use us through the services, it's something to talk to your realtor about, and see what other charges need to be put through Concierge. And if, they have to kind of put a spreadsheet together to see how much everything's going to cost. But yes, we can do it through the Concierge program. We don't like to wait. My company doesn't like to wait until escrow to get paid, and because a job can take a couple weeks or so, or a couple days. And then you have to put it on the market, get all the work done and all of that. And by then it could be, you could sell your house in 3 weeks or 2 months.
Right.
So we kind of like to, not be in escrow, but Compass Concierge is totally fine. They pay us in increments as we go along the project. So I don't know
Okay.
if move organizers are set up on the different concierge programs, but if they are, yeah, you can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So we'll move on. Timing your move. How can you buy and sell so you only have to move once? So there are a few different things, tricks up our sleeves. You can write a contingency into the contract. So if you find your home that you want to move to, you can put in an offer on that home and have a contingency that you're not going to buy it unless your current home sells. So that is one option. You can sell your current home contingent on buying your new home. So you can actually have a buyer, on the line to buy your house, but you have a contingency in the contract that you're not going to sell it to them until you've found the replacement home. So those are both options. They're pluses and minuses depending on what's going on in the market at the time, but there are possibilities. You can negotiate a longer escrow period to give you more time. Normally around here, escrows are 30 days average. And that's still about right during COVID. I think it went a little longer initially, but we're hovering 30, 35 days. So you can negotiate a longer period. Don't close until, 60 days and give yourself some more time. You can get what's called a bridge loan, where you can, so in this case, you could actually move first to your new house. And if you need a loan to buy that house, you can get a bridge loan if there's enough equity that you have. So the bank will actually give you that loan. You move to the new house. And now if you have those two loans, right, you have two houses, two loans, you're making extra payments because you have two, and then you sell your current home. And so it's good because you know where you're going, you get to move where you're going to. It's also a good option because it's easier to sell your home if you have moved out. It's easier to show it. You don't have to coordinate your showings and all that stuff. So there's some good reasons for doing that if it's something that might work. And you can also possibly sell your home and have a rent back from the buyer. So you sell it, you have the close of escrow date where the buyer now becomes the owner. And if you are still living in the home, now you are the tenant and probably paying a little bit of rent to your buyers for some period of time, whatever is negotiated. So that can give you more time to find your replacement property as well. So there are some options for that, which is good. For the bridge loans, this is another program that Compass has is if you have two loans for some period of time while you're trying to sell your original home, Compass will cover those extra payments for up to 6 months. And then when your house sells, you pay them back. Same thing as Concierge, no interest, no fees. They'll just help you make those payments because that can be tough, as we all can imagine, paying two mortgages at the same time. So there are some options. Okay, so tax-wise, this gets a little dense. And I have in bright yellow, make sure you talk to your CPA about your tax options. I am not a CPA or an accountant. And I could not bill myself that way. So I just want to make sure that's clear up front. But we'll just talk about some of the possibilities. So most of you probably know that there is a principal residence exclusion on your capital gains when you sell your house. So if it is your principal residence, the first $250,000 of your gain you can have excluded from taxes. So you don't have to pay taxes on that piece. If you're married, it's $500,000. So that's kind of a nice thing. And you can actually, unless it's been changed with the newer tax laws, I don't think it has, you can do that like every 2 years or something, you know. So this is actually a secret that a lot of contractors use. They'll build a house, live in it for 2 years, sell it, keep that chunk of cash and not pay taxes on it, and go do it again. So I'm sure, you know, it gets old moving every 2 years, but so that is one thing to consider. You could do possibly a 1031 exchange if you're really concerned you have a lot of equity growth in your house. 1031 exchange is part of the tax code that allows for you to purchase a new investment property. So you sell the current property, purchase a new investment property, and not have to pay taxes on that money as long as you moved all the money into the new investment property. Notice that I'm talking about investment properties. So your principal residence is not an investment property if you're living there. So if you wanted to use this or consider it, you would have to move out of your house for some period of time. And I think different CPAs say 1 year, 2 years. So it really is an investment property and you have rent coming in, then you could sell it and have an exclusion as long as you move your money to another investment. So that is a possibility. I don't see too many people doing that because, you know, then you're moving twice. Most people, if they're dealing with their principal residences, they didn't necessarily want to be a landlord, but it's an option. And then the last one, this one is about transferring your property taxes or your property tax basis. So I don't know how many people know this, but if you own your house for a really long time, you are still paying California property taxes based on what you purchased your house for. So your assessment is really low. Your tax assessment is really low. And it just goes up a minute amount every year. So it's not exactly what you bought the house for, but it's not a whole lot more. And then when you buy a new house, the valuation and the assessment is on the current value that you purchased that house at. And that's what you get taxed on. So you can imagine that jump can be quite large if you've owned the original house for a long time. So what Prop 60 and 90 allows you to do is transfer your tax basis from the house that you're selling to the house that you're buying, and then you keep that tax basis going forward. So you don't have that big jump in taxes. And so that's the second bullet, permits you to carry over to a new residence tax basis of the former residence. So this is huge for people, especially people who have been in their houses for a long time. And let's say now they need to downsize. So they could find a replacement house where they have enough room and they can get their downsize done. And a lot of times they're worried about paying the new high property taxes, but they may not have to. So you can only do it one time. And currently, anyway, pretty strict qualifications. I've got some of them on the next slide. Prop 60 means that you can transfer your tax basis within the same county. So this is California we're talking about. But if I move from a house in San Mateo County and I purchase a house in San Mateo County, I can apply to transfer the tax basis. Same with any county in the state. However, only certain counties allow you to cooperate with that tax basis between counties. So if you look at the list on the bottom there, these are the counties participating in Prop 90, which is the inter-county transfer. I could sell my house in San Mateo, move to San Diego County and transfer the tax basis, but I could not sell my house in San Mateo and move to, say, Humboldt County and transfer my tax basis because Humboldt County is not participating. So it's kind of a short list because I think California has 58 counties and only 7 are cooperating in Prop 90, but there are some that do, so that's good to know. I could move from Santa Clara to San Mateo County and transfer it, so that's good to know. Qualifications, it has to be your principal residence. The new house has to be equal or lower market value than the original property, so you can't buy up in price. You have to buy equal or lower. There's a little bit of a detail on that which gives you 5 or 10% of a gap. So it can be slightly higher, but that's, I don't want to get into too much nitty gritty, trying to keep it higher level. Located in the same county or participating county, like I said. The new house has to be bought within 2 years of the sale of the old house. So you do have a little bit of time, right? You have to be 55 at least, or you have to be disabled. And if you're married, one of the people has to be 55, not necessarily both. One is enough. And then you have to actually do some paperwork to, you have to elect to do it. They don't automatically do it. So hopefully that is helpful, and I'm happy to share more information if that's new to anybody and you want more information about it. And then still on the topic of resources available to you to get through all the selling process. Realtors have a lot of skills and offer many services that you might not think of necessarily. So this consulting skills, I think hopefully that's something you realize that realtors do. We have expertise to help you get, and the way I think about it is to help my clients get what's important to them. So really listening and being clear on what's important to them is super important, because then I can help them get what they want. We do market analysis. We can organize. I'd like to go into, help people look at their houses and help decide which projects should we do, which makes sense to spend money on, which really don't, where am I going to get my money in the market, that kind of thing. And then help manage those projects or help find vendors to take care of those projects, that kind of thing. I have, like I mentioned before, a strong referral network with a lot of different vendors that I've worked with, or colleagues have worked with, or clients have worked with, that I can highly recommend. And people find that really useful. And then, of course, pricing and negotiating skills. So very important skills that we have as realtors. But when you're talking to different realtors or considering who to work with, ask them what they offer, how they're going to help with the process. Because different people kind of offer different things and run their businesses a little bit differently. Okay. I'm kind of switching over to steps to selling. So let me ask if anybody has any questions at the moment. Nope. Okay. All right. So steps to selling your house. So the first thing is to assess your motivation and your priorities. What is important to you in this process? And that's it's really more of a life question. What's important to me? What do I want? Where do I want to live? What do I want to, who do I want to be with? What do I want to look at when I get up in the morning? It's really a big question. And then especially if you're part of a couple or a family and you need to, take lots of people's needs into account. Then after you've assessed it, you've decided, well, okay, we should probably go ahead and move because there's a better place for us to live. Preparing your home for market, pricing it, and putting together a timeline or a calendar to get the project done. Christine, you have a question?
What do you recommend to your sellers for preparing their home for the market?
I'm going to cover that some, and then we'll see if I cover it enough for you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So one does not simply buy and sell properties in 10 minutes. I mean, I started out telling you a story of one that happened really fast, but partly that was because those people had already gone through the process of deciding what they wanted to do, where they wanted to be. They'd been working on the house already. So a lot of those steps had already happened. And so then it was able to come together really quickly. Okay. Boy, this thing is jumping around on me. Okay. So assessing your motivation, this is always the question I like to ask. What is the most important to you when selling your home? And you can see what, the answer is. I want to sell it fast. I want to sell it easy. And I want the most money. So that's a pretty standard seller answer, right? I want it all. I want as much money as I can get. And I want this to be super easy and quick. And so if you think about it, those priorities don't necessarily meet. And so you have to think about, well, what is most important? Is it important enough to me to get the most money that I'm willing to take a little bit longer to sell it? Or is it important enough to me to sell it really quickly so that I'm okay with pricing it a little lower than maybe I could if I had more time? So there's, some decision points in there. What's most important? What is your timing? What's important about your timing in terms of where you want to go? Some people, maybe they want to get somewhere for schools or whatever it is that they have deadlines, new job, that kind of thing. Any specific requirements that people have? Like the people that I just was talking about that sold their house very quickly, they had already decided, it's important to us to get where we want to go. We want to get there. We're ready to get there. They found a house that they liked. So that, that was motivating. So, they were very clear about what their priorities were. So that's important to think through. And for me, I think it's really important to think through that with your professionals that you're working with. So everybody on board, your team, can understand exactly what is the most important, and then decisions can be made easily if everybody understands what our goals are. I like this, throwing good money after bad. And I think realtors get a bad rap. Apparently we say a lot to spend a lot of money improving your home before you sell it. I think, sometimes that's true. You need to spend some money on it before you sell it. And sometimes you can really be smart about prioritizing what you're going to spend your money on and not spend money on absolutely everything. So here's my preparing the home for market. We can talk a little bit about it. So I mentioned that I've part of what I do is help go into someone's house and understand. A lot of times people will take me through the house and say, well, we're going to do this and we were always going to do that and we really think we got to do that. And so there would be this whole list of repairs and upgrades and that kind of thing. So we evaluate the projects that are on the list, anything else that I see, prioritize the projects, knock off the ones that really aren't going to help us, present the home necessarily. We might want to get inspections during this time, have a home inspector come, have a pest inspector come, because it's important to understand, how much dry rot do we have? Do we have beetles or termites that we got to deal with? Is there a leak under the house? So we can find out problems and factor those into the projects that we decide to do. Because you don't, if you can avoid it, you want everything to be working when you're trying to sell it. You're going to probably get more money that way. Establish your budget and your timeline and your schedule. Like I was talking about, if you're in a big hurry and you really need to get moved, then maybe you don't have time to do the upgrades. or maybe there's a smaller list of repairs and upgrades that you want to make before you put the house on the market. Someone has to manage the project. A lot of times that is a combination of the owner and the realtor, maybe the contractor if you've got a contractor involved. So lots of different options depending on what you need to do. Declutter, start packing. I always tell people, just think of it as packing. You've decided to move now, so you're moving, so you might as well start packing. And that, helps with the decluttering process. Sometimes if we're staging the home with your own furnishings, then you don't want to necessarily pack everything, but we can work through that process too. Like, what do we recommend you leave? What does Sherry think we ought to do? And, or if we have a stager involved, that kind of thing. But for the most part, especially personal things, those just, you can start packing. Staging is, people definitely get their money out of staging in this area. So if it's something that you can do, or we can use concierge to do, it's worth it. You get more money for your house if you stage. Same thing about, like I was mentioning earlier, painting, landscaping, kind of basically shining it up. I know sometimes you hear, lipstick on a pig, and you don't want to, you want to do what you can to make sure the quality that it's in decent shape. I have sold complete fixer-uppers before where my clients didn't want to do anything, and that works too. And that'll find you, the kind of buyer who is looking for a fixer-upper. So it I guess it depends on how much money you want, how much time you have, so many things.
Kirsten, can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Very high. I was just, as far as the decluttering or where to start, sometimes if somebody asks us to come in and we do a consultation, one of the tips for people is, if whether they're doing it on their own or not, is to just take some painter's tape and start tagging things that you want to keep or move forward with. Because you can start walking around your house without having to physically do things if you're not interested in doing that because you're overwhelmed. And just start tagging things as you walk through the house, within a week's time or whatever. And then if you do hire a move manager or someone to help you, that person can come in and do what you've tagged, or do all the other stuff or part of the other stuff to get it out of the way. And then you can tag some more, so it doesn't have to be, let me pack everything all at once and then what do I do with the rest? It can be, and it is a lot of times. But if you're looking for a technique, people ask me this all the time, the tape does wonders.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's great. Yeah. Thank you. The other thing I realized I don't have on here is, clean. A good thorough cleaning makes a huge difference. And power washing, windows, that kind of thing, really, it helps to, do your best to shine it up. So does that help, Christine, or is there any specific question you have?
Nothing I haven't already told my sellers that they're not doing.
Okay. Okay. I wish I had magic for you. Yeah, Crystalline?
We had a question in the chat that's actually not specific to this, but I think leads into your next slide. And Emily was wondering what the tax rate is for the capital gains after the first 250,000.
I don't off the top of my head know what the current tax rate is. Assuming you lived in your house for a really long time, then you have the lowest capital gains rate. But does anybody else know off the top of their head what that gains rate is? I could look it up for you, Emily, and send you an email. Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome. Okay. So pricing the property. I mentioned earlier it's part science and part art. It's a lot of science and number evaluation that goes into it. We spend a lot of time evaluating the competitive market, and it certainly helps. You know, we as realtors, we just live in the market, or not necessarily live there like our personal life, but our whole professional life is, and our brain is around what's going on in the market where we are serving clients. So we know what's coming on the market. We know what's selling. We tend to be talking to different realtors and finding out how many offers somebody got and what issues are happening, all sorts of things. So we kind of, especially in a small market like the coast, we can really know a lot about what's going on. Well, I guess in the larger market too, we can know a lot. So it's a matter of keeping our eyes and ears open, having a lot of conversations. Three things that are really important when you're selling your house, and it helps to understand what the pricing should be. One is location. You hear that all the time. Location, location, location. Is the house on a busy street? Is the house on a, quiet cul-de-sac? Is it near the emergency room at the hospital? Just lots of different location considerations have to do with the valuation of the property. The condition of the house, which we've been talking about. The accessibility, and what this means is how the house is going to be more easily sellable and marketable when we can actually allow buyers to see it. And the easier it is for those agents and buyers to see it, the more you're going to have possible interest. So if you limit that by, there's actually a property on the market on the coast where they're saying there are two tenants that live there and you cannot see the property. You're supposed to make an offer before you see the property. So, and we see that every once in a while, not too often, but, you can imagine how hard that is for a buyer to make an offer on something they can't even see. So you want to make it as easy as you can, which is one of the reasons why, if you can move out of your house before you sell it, or as you're prepared to sell it, that makes it much easier for people to come and see it. Also, right now with COVID and the restrictions and the rules that we have, people have to make appointments, which is kind of new. We can't do open houses. We have a lot of extra paperwork that we need to do when people want to see homes. The seller has to do extra paperwork, and it's gotten more complicated to see homes, which is why we do a lot more virtual marketing. So we're spending a lot more money on marketing to get so everybody can see as much as possible online before they come and physically see the house. And then evaluate your pricing options. I was mentioning earlier, if you're in a really big hurry, you might want to price it a little lower. If you have a little more time, you might want to go ahead and have it at a little bit higher price than what you're seeing on the market. So there's a lot of art to that process and deciding what the list price should be. This is different. Here, I'll come back. I'll just do this really quick. Ways different people and professionals see your house, right? You think it's a nice rancher. Your buyer thinks, oh, well, it's sort of nice, it's a cute little place. And your tax assessor wants to tax you like crazy, like it's a mansion, right? So it's kind of funny. Crystalline, you had something?
Oh, I was just curious, since you did touch on investment properties a little bit earlier. So if in accessibility, or in thinking of accessibility of your house to sell it, if you have tenants, do they have rights about what you can and can't do when showing a house?
They definitely do. Yeah. Anything rented is subject to tenants' rights. And so those tenants can say, no, we don't want this house to be shown. And then the seller decided in that case to go ahead and put it on the market anyway. And then once the house is in contract, then they can set appointments with the tenants for the buyers to go in and see it. But yeah, in any case, it depends on what the lease reads. A lot of leases will say you need 24-hour notice for someone to come and see it. And now with COVID, like I mentioned, we have extra paperwork. We have paperwork, so everybody has to assure everybody that they don't have COVID, they haven't been exposed to COVID, all these different things. So now if you throw tenants in the picture, you've got a lot of people, in the mix. And we're trying to keep people safe too. We don't want people to go to an open house and get COVID, or we don't want, to bring the illness to the tenants, or, so we need to try to protect people too. This is really serious. So, yeah, I hope that helped. Okay. And then, so in terms of trying to figure out price and working through that conversation, what we do, I look at the market in a couple different ways, and just with the property in mind that I'm thinking about selling or helping to price, I'll look at similar homes that have sold recently, in this case, and then the last, I think, 90 days, that are kind of similar size, right? And I've looked at all these and I know them, so I know that they're similar. I know what their conditions are, so kind of know how they match with the one that I'm working on pricing. And I can see that, in this case, this group of homes, which is comparable to the ones I was, listing, sold for over their asking prices, all of them. In the last 90 days, all of them sold for more. So, yeah, I'm sorry, one of them didn't. This one sold for a little bit less. So you kind of get an idea of what's going on in that particular market, and that helps to price it. I also like to look at, and I wanted to note that I also, when I'm looking at sold properties, I also look at pending properties. At the same time, when I ran this, there just happened to not be any pending properties that were similar. So that's why I didn't have any there. And then actives. So these are the properties that were active on the market at that moment in time. And the reason I like to look at this is we might have a approximate price in mind, and we want to look at the active properties because this will tell us what our competition is. If we put on the market right now at, let's say, 1.3 million, then we know, okay, we've got, competition at 1,298,000. I'm looking at the list price over here, 1,325,000. So if a buyer is out there looking with 1,300,000 in their pocket and trying to buy a house, that's what they're going to be looking at, and then ours. So we kind of know, how does ours compare? If that buyer comes to those, let's say those 3 houses, do those compare? How does ours look in comparison to those? So that really helps with the pricing decision as well. And then when you look at these, DOM means days on market, so you can see how long the homes have been on the market. If I go back and look at the sold ones, look how quickly the sold ones actually sold, right? Really fast. And then on the active, there are quite a few that have been on for longer for various reasons. Maybe they're overpriced. Maybe they have some kind of challenge, that is causing buyers not to want to go forward. So that's another reason it's so important to know your market. Okay. It's also really important to price the market well at the get-go, because the best time to sell the house is within the first 2 weeks on the market. So this is market timing here. So within the first 2 weeks, you're probably going to get the most for the house. And then if it sits, then your buyer activity falls off and people start to think there's something wrong with it. And you start to get to the point where you're not going to get as high a price. So it's pretty important to try to hit this as accurately as possible. And around here, when something new comes on the market, because there's just not that much, people jump on it. You get calls like within an hour after the listing pops on the market. So things are moving quickly. So steps to sell, there's just a timeline. I've talked about a number of these already. Maybe these aren't quite in the same order that I was talking about them, but positioning it, competitively price it. We can market homes as coming soon, which is kind of nice. And that means everybody within our company can know about the property that's coming. And that's great because a lot of them might have buyers for that particular house. So we want to start getting the word out right away. Preparing the house, launching it on the MLS. Once we have all the lovely pictures and everything, we put it on the MLS and it gets syndicated out worldwide. So it's all over the world for people who want to see it. Marketing obviously is critically important. Showing the house. We used to be able to do broker events and open houses. We can't do that anymore, but we do a lot, like I said, digitally. And one of the things that we can do is a virtual open house. So I could I could be at the house, or the seller could be at the house, and you can be on Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, and people can hop on with you and you can be walking around the house explaining and showing. And so that's kind of cool. But nothing replaces people coming to see the house. They still want to come and see it. So eventually you have an appointment and you have to, be out of the house for the buyers to walk around. By law, that's currently the case. Pre-COVID, you could stay at the house and, be there, which isn't necessarily ideal. It's really better if you're not there, because the buyers need to be able to feel free to look around and talk amongst themselves and that kind of thing. So it's really better that you're not there. And with COVID, you're really not supposed to be there. So let's see, any updating along the way. We're always checking the market as to, what's going on with the market. Do we have interest? If we don't have interest, maybe there's something we need to change. We need to change the price. We need to, I don't know, just look at the property and hear what the feedback is that we're getting from people and make changes. Negotiate when we have buyers come to the table with offers, and then go through escrow and get to close. So that's obviously really quick. I realize I'm about out of time, and so this is almost done. And then usually I will come up with a calendar like this for my clients, and we'll have everything kind of on a calendar and understand what our timeline is. That's super useful. And then you just hang out and sell your house. After all of that. I thought that was kind of funny. Okay. So that is all I have. Well, I'll just quickly wrap up. Step 1. You heard me say it, evaluate what's the most important to you and let that be your guide. So that is always the top priority, is get what's most important to you. And if you do decide to sell, make sure that you put together a team that you really trust and you feel that you work really well with. So that's super important. You don't want to be working with people that you feel like maybe don't have your best interests at heart, or just personalities don't work or whatever. Put together a team that you enjoy working with, and the process can be enjoyable. If complicated, it could still be enjoyable. So, any questions or any follow-up?
Great information. Thank you.
Good, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a lot of information to take in. Awesome job, Kirsten.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not looking at this immediately, but this is extremely helpful in terms of thinking, well, but within a couple of years, I'm probably going to do this. Gives me now a sense that I could get organized and not panic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I had someone who sold their home earlier this year in El Granada, and she and I first started talking at least a year ago. About a year ago. And, we talked about, what project should she be doing while she's getting prepared, and really step it and take her time. And of course she was traveling in between, but that worked out really well. And I've worked with several people that do that. It makes so much sense. And
Yeah,
that
does.
people do is if you wait until you're moving and you do all these upgrades and fixes and all this stuff, then you kind of kick yourself because you go, why did I wait so long? Why didn't I do this for myself and not just for selling the house? So anyway, stuff to think about. But yeah, give yourself time. It's great. That's a good luxury to have the time to do it.
Well, if that's it for the questions.
Okay. All right.
Then I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and thank you to Kirsten for this wonderful presentation. And as we mentioned, it's been recorded. So we've already gotten a request for the copy, and we will send that out. And I wanted to note that Mary wrote in the chat, in case you haven't seen it, great presentation. Love all of the extra options that Compass has for helping a seller make their move.
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, you've got my phone number and my email if anybody has any follow-up questions or whatever. I really appreciate your being here. Thank you for bringing your smiley faces to us this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for doing it, Kirsten.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you, Crystalline.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.